Welcome back. Let's talk about Alex Eala's first match at the Cincinnati Open, her official arrival as the number 17 seed against Elena Ruse, ranked 74th in the world at the time. On paper, the gap looked straightforward. A career-high seeded player walking in with a first-round bye against an unseeded opponent. But anyone who has followed Eala through this extraordinary North American summer knows that rankings only tell part of the story. Ruse had already shown she could be dangerous. In the previous round, she dismantled Magda Linette 6-0, 6-3, a result that turned heads. Eala herself had lost to Ruse once before in a hard-fought three-set battle during the 2024 US Open qualifying rounds. The history existed. The threat was real. The crowd, however, did not care about history. The stadium filled early and filled loud. Filipino fans from Cincinnati and the surrounding areas packed the stands, turning the Lindner Family Tennis Center into another version of the same atmosphere that had defined Washington and Toronto. Philippine flags appeared along the railings, chants of Laban, Alex rolled through the seats, children held handmade signs. The energy that now travels with Eala from city to city had arrived in Ohio, even in a place where the local Filipino population is measured in the low thousands rather than the hundreds of thousands. Distance once again proved no obstacle. Eala chose to serve first. From the opening points, it was clear the short break after Toronto had done its job. The timing looked sharp. The first point of the match set the tone immediately. A clean down-the-line strike, followed by a quick cross-court redirection, then another precise placement that left Ruse stretching and missing. Eala took the point with authority. The second point brought a brief error on the forehand, the kind of early match rust that often appears after a few days off, but she recovered at once. On the next point, she caught Ruse off guard again with depth and angle. The early exchanges were physical. Both players settled into long baseline rallies, trading heavy balls and testing each other's movement. Ruse managed to take the opening game, capitalizing on a couple of those early errors, but the pattern that would define the set was already forming. In the second game, Eala began to settle into her rhythm. She returned with more purpose, forced a double fault, and then started controlling the longer exchanges. When the rallies stretched past 6 or 7 shots, Eala's consistency and court coverage took over. She redirected pace cleanly, changed direction without overhitting, and waited for the mistake. Ruse eventually netted under pressure, and Eala leveled the set at 1-1. From that moment, the first set became increasingly one-sided. The third game was a statement. Ruse began committing a string of unforced errors while Eala dictated the direction of the rallies, moving her opponent side to side until the ball sailed long or into the net. The Filipino crowd responded to every clean winner and every forced error. 2-1. In the fourth game, Eala's return of serve was especially sharp, quick, deep, and disruptive. Ruse struggled to find any rhythm on her own service games. Another break followed, 3-1. By the fifth game, the tactical picture was clear. Eala's serve, clocked around 71 miles per hour on some deliveries, was not the fastest on tour. Many top players generate significantly more pace, but the placement and the spin were causing real problems. Ruse repeatedly mistimed her returns, sending balls long or dumping them into the net. The effective speed through the air and the late movement of the ball were doing the damage. Eala held comfortably for 4-1. In the sixth game, Ruse continued to leak errors under sustained pressure. Eala stayed locked in, face-focused, footwork clean, shot selection disciplined. Another break, 5-1. The seventh game delivered the set. More trouble for Ruse on the return, more precise serving and directing from Eala. On set point, Eala hit a sharp cross-court ball that Ruse could not recover. First set, 6-1. A dominant performance by any measure. After dropping the opening game, Eala had allowed Ruse only that single game and controlled the majority of the longer exchanges. The crowd rose as the players walked to the changeover. The statement had been made. There was a short medical timeout for Ruse at the end of the set. She also switched rackets, a visible sign that she was searching for answers. The second set began with both players still trading heavy baseline balls, but the balance of power had not shifted. Eala continued to win the majority of the extended rallies. She broke early again. Then she held her own serve with authority. Then she broke once more. Suddenly, it was 3-0 in the second set, and the Filipino crowd was fully behind every point, sensing that the match was moving toward a decisive conclusion. That was when the weather intervened. Thunderstorms rolled in over the Lindner Family Tennis Center. The umpire suspended play. Eala walked off the court with a 6-1, 3-0 lead. The stadium still loud, the momentum firmly hers. The interruption came at a moment when Ruse's frustration was already visible. The body language had shifted. The unforced errors were mounting. Eala, by contrast, looked composed and physical. During changeovers, she ate a banana the way she often does for quick energy, staying locked into her patterns and her routines. This was not a perfect match from the very first point. Ruse took the opening game and created a few moments of pressure with her own solid striking. But once Eala found her range, the level difference became obvious. The serve placement, the ability to extend rallies without overhitting, the clean redirection of pace, the patience to wait for the right ball, all of it showed a player who has grown through the hard lessons of a demanding summer. The version of Eala who walked on court in Cincinnati looked like someone who had absorbed the physical and emotional load of Washington and Toronto and still had clarity left. The rain delay paused the story, but it did not change the direction. When play eventually resumed, Eala closed out the match 6-3, 7-6, 2 in 1 hour and 48 minutes. She converted the early dominance into a straight sets victory and a place in the third round of her first Cincinnati Open. The second set became tighter after the interruption, as often happens when momentum is broken by weather, but Eala's composure in the decisive moments, particularly in the tiebreak, confirmed what the first set had already suggested. She was ready for this stage. For the fans who filled the stands that afternoon, the message was already clear before the final point was played. The same community that crashed the ticket system and forced organizers to move her match to a larger court had shown up again. The same player who had turned the DC Open and the National Bank Open into home matches was doing it once more in Ohio. And the version of Alex Eala, who arrived as the 17th seed with a first-round bye and a career-high ranking, looked prepared for the moment. Step back for a second and consider the larger arc. Less than 2 years earlier, Eala was ranked outside the top 140, accepting wild cards and grinding through qualifying just to reach main draws. In Washington, she captured her first WTA title, beating top players including Jessica Pegula in the final. In Toronto, she pushed deep into a WTA 1000 event and generated the kind of atmosphere that forced even her opponents to acknowledge the crowd. Now, in Cincinnati, she was seated, protected by a bye, and still drawing the same passionate support in a city with a fraction of Toronto's Filipino population. The ticket demand had already forced a court change before she played a point. The performance against Ruse showed why that demand existed. The first set was a tactical and physical statement. Eala's ability to make a relatively modest first serve speed effective through placement and spin spoke to her improving understanding of how to construct points. Her willingness to stay patient in longer rallies, rather than forcing the issue too early, reflected the growth that has come with match play at higher levels. Ruse is a dangerous opponent on her day, capable of heavy striking and capable of frustrating higher-ranked players. On this day, she ran into a version of Eala that was sharp, focused, and backed by a crowd that refused to stay quiet. The early second set lead before the rain only reinforced the impression. Breaking serve, holding comfortably, breaking again, the pattern remained the same. When the thunderstorms arrived, the match sat at 6-1, 3-0. The eventual resumption required Eala to close out a tighter second set, but the foundation had been laid in those first 10 games of clean, purposeful tennis. There is a particular satisfaction in watching a player who has earned her seeding and then justifies it immediately. The first round bye gave Eala extra recovery time after the physical toll of the previous 2 weeks. She used it. The haircut and the short mental break she had spoken about after Toronto appeared to have cleared her head. The movement looked fresh, the decision-making looked clear, and the connection with the crowd remained unbroken. For Filipino fans, the afternoon carried the same emotional weight that has marked this entire summer. They had traveled, they had planned, they had filled seats in a tournament that had never before felt their presence at this scale. In return, they received a dominant first set and a player who continues to acknowledge them in both English and Tagalog, treating the support as something shared rather than something owed. That relationship between a young woman from Quezon City and a diaspora that shows up city after city has become one of the defining subplots of the 2026 season. The rain delay will be remembered as a temporary interruption rather than a turning point. Eala finished the job. She moved into the third round, and the Cincinnati crowd that had already forced a venue change got the performance it came to see. What did you make of that opening statement? A 6-1 first set, early control in the second, and a composed closing act after the weather intervened. The serve placement, the rally tolerance, the ability to make a dangerous opponent look uncomfortable, all of it pointed to a player who belongs at this level. Drop your thoughts below. If you've been following the full arc of this North American swing, from the breakthrough title in Washington through the Electric Nights in Toronto to this Cincinnati debut, subscribe and stay with us. The third round is next. The US Open is getting closer, and the player at the center of it all is still writing the next chapter in real-time .tennis diaries, where the ones who watch the first set stay for whatever comes next.